You know that word culture? We use it all the time, for art, for food, for our identity. But what if I told you that simple word might actually be one of the most dangerous ideas in modern history? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dig into exactly that, the problem with culture, using anthropologist Adam Kuper's incredible work as our guide.
No, really, take a second. What does it mean to you? Is it about art? Music? The language you speak? Your national identity? It feels so simple, so obvious, but as we're about to find out, the moment people tried to nail down a definition, things started to go down some very, very dark paths.
All right, Section 1, what is culture? Before we start taking this idea apart, let's just get on the same page. Let's start with the definition that, most of us probably have kicking around in our heads.
Yeah, we usually think of it like this, right? A nice, neat little package. It's like every group of people has its own special cultural box, and inside are all their unique beliefs and their way of life. It feels logical. But this whole idea is actually a pretty recent invention, and believe me, its history is anything but neat and tidy.
Okay, Section 2, culture versus civilization. To really get the problem here, we have to go way back to where it all started. Because the word culture wasn't just born as some neutral descriptive term. Oh no, it was basically forged in the fire of a huge intellectual war. It was a fighting word from day one.
And the battle lines were drawn pretty clearly. On one side, you had German romantics, who were all about culture, this idea of the unique spiritual soul of a people, something you could see in their art and traditions. But on the other side, you had the French Enlightenment thinkers pushing for civilization, the idea that there's really just one universal path for all of humanity, and it's guided by science and reason. So right from the get-go, culture was at the center of this massive question. Are we all on the same journey, or are we all living in totally different, separate worlds?
Section 3, 101 definitions. So this big philosophical debate gets handed off to the brand new science of anthropology. And they try to take this messy idea of culture and turn it into something scientific, something you can study. The only problem? The closer they looked, the less they could agree on what it even was.
And I'm not exaggerating. Back in 1952, a couple of leading anthropologists decided to list out every single academic definition of culture they could find. They found so many clashing, contradictory ideas that they literally just gave up after they hit 164. So you had some folks, like the famous anthropologist Edward Tyler, who called it that complex whole, basically everything. A people's knowledge, their art, their laws, their beliefs, the whole shebang.
But then others completely disagreed. They said, no, culture isn't some big, vague idea. It's just the shared patterns of behavior you can actually observe. What people do, not what they think.
And then things got even weirder. With this idea of culture as a super-organic force, like it was this powerful entity that existed totally on its own, with its own rules, floating high above any single person.
So here's the bottom line. The big scientific project to define culture, it failed. It really did. Instead of getting one clear definition, all they got was this thick fog of competing ideas. The concept was left messy, vague, and dangerously flexible. And that flexibility was about to be turned into a weapon.
Now for Section 4, the dark side of culture. This is where the story takes a really sharp, really dark turn. Because this abstract academic mess didn't just stay in the ivory tower. It leaked out into the real world, and it was used to build a terrifyingly powerful political weapon.
Think about it. If you truly believe that humanity is naturally divided up into these separate, self-contained cultural bubbles, well, it's not a huge leap to start arguing that those bubbles should never, ever mix. This idea gave the perfect intellectual cover for political projects that were all about separating people and creating hierarchies.
And the most brutal, most systematic example of this was apartheid in South Africa. The architects of this system weren't just random thugs. They were intellectuals. And they explicitly used these academic theories of culture to design their racist state.
This was their core logic. Guys like W.W.M. Iselin, who was an anthropologist himself, by the way, argued that because each race had its own unique, precious culture, mixing them would be unnatural, even destructive. So separation, apartheid, wasn't framed as racism. Oh no. It was framed as a scientific, necessary way to preserve these distinct cultures.
You see how it works? A seemingly harmless academic idea, these unique separate cultures, becomes the justification for forcing people apart, for denying them basic rights, and for building a brutal racial hierarchy. And it was all done under the supposedly noble banner of cultural preservation.
It gave a scientific-sounding excuse for pure racism.
Okay, Section 5. Is the word necessary? So after this whole journey, from a philosophical fight to scientific confusion to being used as a political weapon, the author, Adam Kuper, comes to this absolutely stunning and pretty radical conclusion.
This is his final judgment, right here. The word culture has become so hopelessly vague and so deeply stained by the horrible ways it's been used politically that it's just not useful anymore for anyone trying to seriously understand how human societies work. It actually causes more problems than it solves.
It's a pretty shocking thought, isn't it? To take a word that we all use every single day, a word that feels so core to who we are, and just stop using it. I mean, can we even talk about art or history or identity without it? And that's really the final provocative question this whole analysis leaves us wrestling with. If culture is a flawed and dangerous tool, then what should we use instead? Maybe by being more specific, by talking about things like language or politics or art or economics, we can actually see the world and each other a lot more clearly. It's definitely something to think about.